Your final comedian of the evening to close out the show tonight has a series of short films called Seeing the Light. And he will be here all weekend with Marknormand here at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle. Put your hands together, whistle if you can. Get up and clap your cheeks for Mike Cronin.
Hey, give it over for Charles, everybody. I'm Mike Cronin, but you can call me Big Mama. All right? Somebody do that already? Shit.
Think about it every night. Don't let this house fall down. The Lord left long ago.
All right, I'm at the Comedy Castle this week with Marknormand. Looking forward to it. I've been friends with Mark for a while. I met Joe List very early on in comedy, about 3 years in, at the Dayton Funny Bone. Shout out to last week. I was booked to host there, and Joe was featuring, and the headliner was Tommy Johnigan, and it was one of my favorite weeks I've ever worked. Joe was so funny, and just funny bits off stage. There's a thing in comedy where sometimes you meet a guy and he's hilarious, and then you see him on stage, and it's like, oh, you're not as funny as you are just talking in person. Joe is not that. Joe is hilarious on stage, and then off stage he's constantly doing silly bits and gags. I remember there was a fan, it was March in Cincinnati. It's just starting to get warm, and Dayton, which is where that was. Just starting to get warm. So in the springtime, coughing. Let me take that again. Joe has all these bits that he does in just day-to-day life. Like, we were at this burger place in the springtime, and so the door was open. There was a fan on the ceiling that wasn't turned on, but because of the breeze from outside, it was moving very, very slowly. And as we're taking our order, Joe elbows me and goes, if you're cold, I can get him to turn that fan down for you. And that really made me laugh. Just a very silly, stupid thing. We also went to a bar one of those days. It was actually like 3 weeks before he stopped drinking. Just sat down at the bar and didn't know anybody on either side of the bar. It was kind of like a U shape, and we were in the middle right there. And everyone was quiet. Nobody knew each other at the bar. And Joe just slaps the table and goes, we got the old gang back together, huh? Just so silly, so silly. We were also with Tommy Johnigan, who's one of the funniest people alive, who is now writing a movie and TV show, and he's killing it. Anywho, I brought all that up to say that I met Joe a long, long time ago, and then he started this podcast with Mark, Tuesdays with Stories, and I didn't meet Mark until I think like 3 or 4 years ago, but Joe has talked about me enough that he knew who I was when we met, and we just kind of immediately hit the ground running, and he loves talking comedy. I love talking comedy. I think we were in Oklahoma City at Bricktown, and we just stayed up all night, every night in the hotel rooms. We closed the bar down, just talking comedy and comedians we love and industry, all that shit. It was so much fun, and looking forward to it this weekend. So Wednesday night, I did the Detroit to LA show at Comedy Castle. It's called that because it is a comedy contest, and the winner goes on to fly out to LA and do a show, I think. I don't really know. I wasn't a part of it. If you're unfamiliar, comedy contests are what they do in the summertime at most comedy clubs. In the Midwest, it's really hard to get people to come out in the summer because the weather's nice. Everyone just wants to be out grilling and hanging out in the nice weather outside. To get people in, they have comedy competitions where younger comics compete for prizes like that or for booked weekends at the club. It helps bring people in because the audience votes on who their favorite is. So if you can bring 30 people out to vote for you, you're probably going to win. I did a lot of those coming up in comedy. I never won one. I think of all my friends that do comedy, most of the ones that won comedy competitions early have quit. My Cody, Alex Stone didn't quit, but he is a big time comedy writer in LA. He won a bunch, several other examples that I can't think of right now. But as I was thinking about that the other day, I was like, wow, almost everyone who won a contest quit. And the people that didn't, still kicking along like old Mikey Cronin here. I used to do the Funniest Person in Cincinnati contest every year for the first 7 years. Actually, my second time on stage was a part of that competition, and boy did I bomb. It was very bad. Towards the end of it, they really wanted me to win. They were really hoping I would win. I remember like 4th or 5th year, I had a killer set, just destroyed one round, and the manager of the club pulls me aside afterwards and goes, "You idiot, you went too long over." I went like 45 seconds over, and so they had to disqualify me. So I did not advance that year. Up until the last year, when I was in the semifinals, there is a amateur and a semi-pro division. I was in the semi-pro division. The winner of that gets a feature week at the comedy club. I was already featuring. I think I'd already done like 4 or 5 feature weeks there. I was kind of becoming a regular feature, but I just kind of wanted the title of funniest person in Cincinnati, and they wanted to give it to me. There was a little stat padding. They didn't like cheat as far as coming up with votes out of nowhere, but they put me on easier shows in the early rounds, and I advanced to the finals as myself in semi-pro, and then in amateur, I was doing a character at the time called Hank Cunderham, who was a stand-up comic who had been doing it for 38 years, and he had never been paid. And it was a lot of one-liners, big fake Boston accent, big obnoxious suit. We both made it to the finals. I went up as him, did pretty good, all right. And then for some reason, they put me first in semi-pro. So I finished my set. I ran to the back, took off my stupid costume, put on my regular clothes, and within 4 minutes, I was back on stage doing my version of the set. And for the first 3 minutes of my set, I could hear people in the crowd mumbling, "Isn't this the guy who was just on stage? What is it? Why?" They were so confused because I was doing a completely different thing. My jokes were a different style. It was very confusing to them. So nobody voted for me or the character. We both lost. And that was the last time I did it, because at that point it was just for the ego, and I didn't need to do it. And also back then, if you weren't in the contest, they would book you to host or close out the contest. So instead of doing the contest for free, I would get paid $30 in free drinks to host or close it out, which is a lot better. So that's my experience with contests. That was long. That was a long-winded thing. I'm sorry. But hey, it's part of comedy. So this contest, Detroit to LA, and it's funny because it shows the state of the industry. It is now Detroit to Austin, because there's a lot of industry in Austin as far as stand-up. So I think you win a trip to the mothership or some paid show in Austin. When I got on to the Norman shows, I actually reached out to Mark specifically. I was like, "Hey, are you bringing anyone to Comedy Castle?" And he's like, "Let's do it, fatty." And so we kissed, and then I messaged the booker, and he was like, "That's great. Let's do it." But it's only Friday, Saturday. So there's almost always a Thursday show, and sometimes there's a Sunday show. So I reached out and I was like, "Hey, I'll be there all weekend if you need help on any of the other shows." And he said, "Oh, we got this contest on Wednesday, so why don't you close that out?" And I was like, "Great, I'll do that." So I show up, and I walked in, he greeted me. He's like, "Hey, good to see you. Thanks for coming out tonight." And I'm setting up my camera, and he stops and he looks at me and he's like, "Are you going up tonight?" And I was like, "Yeah, you booked me to." And he's like, "Oh, shit, I think I wrote it down wrong." "Okay, no, it's fine. We'll give you some time." So he double booked the closers, so I ended up taking some time away from a woman. So I am not a feminist. I am part of the patriarchy, and I felt like shit. But also, I didn't really do anything wrong. I just was booked, and they wrote it down wrong, which is fine. It happens. We both got time. We both got paid. Actually, I didn't get paid, and I don't know if she did either. Neither of us got paid, but we both did time. It was a fun show. So that was that.
Also, see this motion right here? That's why you can't beat your sons. You can't beat us, we're beating ourselves. You can't. I heard her call my brother. She's like, "How'd you get 800,000 steps today? That's crazy." I was like, "I was busy." I said, "Where are you doing?" "I was at home. I gotta go home." I gotta go too, guys. Thank you very much. Are you ready for a headliner tonight? Are you ready for a headliner? You know, from Netflix, Comedy Central, you know him. He's here. He's queer. It's Mark Norman.
All right, back to Mark. Shows were so fun. It was 5 sold-out shows, and the Comedy Castle is underrated. It's really one of the best clubs in the country. I forget that every time. And then when I come back and work it, it's like, this place is great. They take care of the comics. The crowds are incredible, and it was really fun. I sold a shit ton of merch. Norman's crowds are great. Also, Tuesdays galore. It was incredible. Only downside is that my mommy was in town. I call her my mom. I don't call her my mommy. I was being silly, and I realized that most of you do not know me personally, and so you would not know that I don't call her mommy. I'm almost 40 years old. She is my mom. But anyways, Mama was there visiting this week. Didn't have a lot of hanging out time with Mark, which was a bummer. But because she was there, we had a babysitter, so Lindsay got to see me for the first time in 3 or 4 years. I think she had an okay time. I think she thought I did okay. And I think she liked me, and I think she still likes me. Good week, great week. My mom is here, and I am taking her to my brother's to spend some days over there, and then we are going to Florida, where I have 2 weeks of shows back to back planned up. So that's it. That's the end of this episode. Thank you guys. Thank you, Justin. Justin, I'm sorry I made you play the Ryan clip multiple weekends. That was uncalled for of me. I shouldn't have done that. I should have thought better. I have a lot of respect for you and what you do. And so let us pray. Dear Lord, thank you, Justin. Thank you, my fans. Thank you, everybody. Amen. Gotta go.
Well, it's not like we don't try. It's worth it every single night. Don't let this house fall down. The Lord left long ago.
These shows are great. Having a great time. Obviously, I'm in the same spot as the other videos because I'm in my car in Minneapolis recapping the week 2 months later. Classic Mike Cronin.